There is a painting over here by Judy Gluck. And I know this is a painting that you'll want to come up to it so that you can see the detail. And Judy, are you here today? Could you stand just so that people can see who you are? So Judy, as you know, we're signing up for the 52. Each week we have a different virtue in this year, 2015. And Judy signed up for courage and painted this painting of her friend Dianne. Because to her, Dianne exemplifies courage, and it goes so beautifully with your song, Wings of Love. Dianne and Judy met after high school while they were working at an insurance company, and they were the same age, and they hit it off right away and became lifelong friends. When Dianne was 12, her mother died, and she and her sister were raised by their father, whom they adored. And even though her mother had passed, Dianne grew up to be a cheerful, lovely young woman. She married her high school sweetheart at the age of 21, and at the age of 23, she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease. During her long and difficult treatments with radiation and chemotherapy, she had a really good friend who stayed with her a lot and helped care for her, which she so appreciated. And one Saturday morning, she walked into the kitchen, and as she was walking into the kitchen, her husband was leaving the back door of the kitchen and explained to her that he was leaving with her best friend who had been taking care of her. Life goes on, and not only did she recover her health and this sense of devastation, but she also began to move on with her life, as we all do eventually. A few years later, she married a man who eventually she was no longer able to be married to because he was having great difficulties himself. And her father, at that same time, who she was very close to, also died suddenly. So she and her sister were mourning his death, and Dianne was raising a very colicky baby at the same time. And yet, this is what Judy says, Dianne, being Dianne, took care of all of them, and she kept on smiling. Her health was doing well at that time, and yet it seemed like she had very little time, actually, to enjoy her life. Soon after that marriage ended, she experienced a thickening of her skin and neuropathy in her legs, and she began to wear braces and continued to raise her son, and then was re-diagnosed with something else, something her mother had passed with. And yet, with her young son in tow, she always had a smile on her face, now knowing that her days were numbered. She continued to remain kind and cheerful while showing immense courage and bravery. She was even blessed then by another gentle and very loving man who came into her life at that point in time. Soon her health began to fail at a more rapid pace than the doctors had expected, and her lungs had been scarred by radiation. So in less than a year, she was put on a respirator. She wanted to stay in her home to keep her life as normal as possible for her son, and so a room was set up for her at home. And with the help of her sister and her soulmate, she remained on a respirator for 7 more years until she left her body temple. And she took off into her next phase of living. Dianne was then 42 years young. Throughout all these ordeals, Dianne never lost her zest for living, or her smile, or her sense of humor, and she never stopped being a kind, compassionate friend to everyone. Her life is a testament to living one's life, no matter what the obstacles, with courage, dignity, and grace. And so to honor Judy's love for her friend and the courage that Dianne now shares with us, let's have a moment of silence for all those who have brought courage up in our lives. What a beautiful sigh. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. I want you to take a big deep breath, bring it in, and then bring it back out, because we're going to change the tempo a little bit here. And Judy, what a beautiful tribute to this gorgeous friend. Well named. I like her name, Dianne. Beautiful woman. Yes, thank you, God. Did you know that asking a new kind of question can immediately change your life? Some of you do, because I taught the class affirmations for the last 4 weeks, and there's like 40 of you who are going, yes. Our special speaker today, who's I'm delighted to have as my guest in my home with his beautiful wife, Babette, Our special speaker today is going to show you how to change your life using a simple but powerful method that he discovered, and is called affirmations with an O. And we've been doing the affers for a long time. So affirmations, his name is Noah St. John, and he's the best-selling author of 10 books, including his new bestseller, From Hay House, bless Louise Hay, the Book of Affirmations. And you have that book, don't you? You want me to hold that book up? Yeah, this is the book, and if you get to the bookstore really fast, you'll be able to get your copy. Either that or you have to sign up, because we've been selling those like hotcakes. So Noah's sought-after advice is known as the secret sauce for achieving emotional and financial freedom. He's appeared in hundreds of media outlets, including ABC, NBC, the Hallmark Channel, the Washington Post, Chicago Sun-Times, Women's Day and Parade magazine. Noah's programs have been called mandatory for anyone who wants to succeed in life. Today's Noah's topic is affirmations, the missing piece to abundant living. Let's find it with Noah. If you'll help me welcome Noah St. John.
Hello. Thank you very much. I love the topic of courage because, as Reverend Dianne mentioned, it does come from the Latin word cor, which means heart. So to me, courage is not the absence of fear, but it is correct action in the face of fear. And, of course, the Bible is filled with stories of courage, isn't it? One of the most famous is David and Goliath, right? And so I see here a room, a sanctuary filled with Davids. Because isn't it true that sometimes doesn't it feel like we're facing that Goliath in our lives? You know, whether it's a health challenge or something in our family or finances, business, whatever it might be. And you're looking up that and going, are you serious? Really? Man. But then we remember who we are, right? We are that embodiment of God. So I'm God as Noah, and this is God as Dianne, God as Babette, right? That's who we are. And so to me, that's what courage represents. So I see a room filled with Davids, heroes and heroines who are facing that Goliath, performing acts of courage every day. So I want you to give yourselves a hand for being here. Awesome. Awesome. Now, did you ever notice you get your best ideas in the shower? Anybody ever notice that? Okay. So I want to take you back now to April 1997. Now, I was a religious studies major in college, and I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. Now, I know that sounds funny to some people, but it's true. I grew up in a little town called Kennebunkport, Maine. You guys all know that, right? Right, so very wealthy community. But my family was dirt poor, and I mean that literally. We lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents actually lost to foreclosure. And my parents worked hard, they struggled, they sacrificed, but they could just never seem to get ahead. So from the time I was very young, I was very painfully aware of the dichotomy between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else, the have-nots was my family. What I remember most about my childhood was my parents arguing all the time. And what were they arguing about? Money. Thank you. You were there. So you get it. You get it. So I saw that. So just something inside of me, and we all know kids are smart, right? So, for me, I really didn't want that life of poverty and scarcity and lack and fear, even though that's all I'd ever grown up with. Now, I was a nerd, a geek, going way back, and so I didn't have anyone to talk to, but I just loved curling up with a good book. I love going to the library. So I just started reading books on personal growth, spiritual growth, all the classics that we know and love. And I started studying them, really wanted to apply them. I tried really, really hard. And then fast forward many years later to April 1997, and I was a 30-year-old religious studies major. I was living in this tiny little dorm room. I had $800 to my name and all my worldly possessions in this tiny little dorm room that was so small, if you put your arms out to both sides, you could touch the walls on both sides. That's how small this room was. So I was very frustrated. I'm going, what is wrong here? Because I've been reading these books, I've been trying to do what they told me. What's missing? And so I just was, feeling frustrated and kind of upset and looking around my little room, and I saw all these little pieces of paper, these little yellow pieces of paper that had all these statements written on them. I am happy, I am rich, I am wealthy, I am prosperous, I am successful. Now, why had I done that? Because every book told you to do that, right? Isn't that what every book says? You write these positive statements, right? And it makes total sense. So I did what they said, but there were just two problems. Number one, I wasn't any of those things. And number two, because I wasn't, now I'm beating myself even more. So I'm going, man, what is the deal? So I went to bed. I was even more frustrated. Got up the next morning and got in the shower. Now, all these thoughts rattling around in my head. You ever have those shower moments, right? And you're just thinking about that problem, and it's like, Well, it was rattling around in my head. And I started to ask myself a series of questions. And I said, well, wait a second. All right. Now, what we're talking about here is belief. Well, what is belief? A belief is a thought. Okay, well, what's thought? What is human thought? And the more that I thought about it, I realized that human thought is the process of asking and searching for answers to questions. For example, if I were to ask you, why is the sky blue? Why is the sky blue? Now, do you know what just happened in your brain? Your brain started to search for the answer, didn't it? Right? I asked you a question, why is the sky blue? Now notice this happened without your own volition. You couldn't not do it. Make sense? So I said, well, wait a second. If the human mind is automatically searching for answers to questions, why are we going around making statements that we might not believe? Because the problem isn't with the statement. There's nothing wrong with the statement. The problem is we don't believe the statement. Anybody with me on this? Yes. Thank you for the yes. I appreciate that. Amen, brother. Okay. So I said, well, wait a second. Why don't we just cut out the middleman and go right to the question? And I said, well, I don't know. What would that look like? By the way, I was talking to myself in the shower. It was a very long shower. So anyway, so I said, well, what would that look like? Well, let's see. You've got this statement, or which is often called an affirmation. I am rich, right? So you say, I am rich, and your brain says, yeah, right. Right? I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes we just don't believe the statement. We say it, we want to believe it, but we don't. I call that the belief gap. I talk about that in the book. I call it a belief gap, see? Because we want to believe it, but we're just not there yet. So I said, well, if that's the statement, then what would the question be? Why am I so rich? Now I want everybody to ask that question out loud. Ready? Why am I so rich? Now what just happened in your brain? Exactly. Thank you from the chorus. He said that you're searching for the answer. Because your brain can't not do that. It's called the embedded presupposition factor of the brain. It's just a fancy way of saying your brain looks for the answer. So I said, wait a second. What are most people doing in life? Well, they're asking lousy questions. Why am I so broke? Why am I so fat? Why can't I lose weight? How come I can't find the right person? How come so-and-so has more than I do? How come I'm working so hard and I'm not getting ahead? Why is there more month left at the end of the money? Got that. You guys are good. I love you guys. Sometimes I say that line and I'm like, you didn't get that, really? So you got it. I love you guys. I'm taking you home with me. Okay. Do you understand? You're asking lousy questions. What do you get? Lousy answers, right. And that means a lousy life. So I said, wait a second. What if instead of asking lousy questions that lead to lousy answers and that creates a lousy life, which we don't want. We're not doing this on purpose, right? Obviously. Nobody's doing this consciously, but it doesn't matter. Because we're using the law of sowing and reaping, right? As you sow, so shall you reap. But what are we sowing? We're sowing seeds of thought. So I said, what if instead of asking lousy questions that lead to lousy answers, create a lousy life that we don't want, what if we start asking empowering questions that lead to phenomenal answers and create a wonderful life? And as I was standing there in the shower, April 24th, 1997, I said, holy cow, I think I just invented something. So I had to give it a name. And the name that I gave it was as affirmations. Thank you very much. Affirmations. And I'm very, very honored that, as Reverend Dianne mentioned, now this is actually the 4th edition of this book. This is a first edition from Hay House. But I've been publishing this book in different forms since the year 2000. And I've been teaching people about affirmations, and which later also became what's called my power habit system. Because I talk about the power habits of unconscious success. The power habits that make success automatic. So you're not working so hard. You know, so many people are struggling and working really hard. Meanwhile, there's other people just floating on and they're like, what is the deal with that? And the deal is that they're doing things unconsciously, so they can't teach it. See, so it took a nerd like me to break down what they were doing and teach the rest of us and go, here's what they're doing that they can't tell you. Does that make sense to anybody? Yes. Well, I love you guys. I am totally taking you home. Thank you. So that's really that's how the affirmations revolution began. Oh, and by the way, a lot of people ask me, you know, where did the word affirmations come from? Well, remember I told you I was a geek, right? So in high school, my favorite subject was Latin. By the way, I didn't have shoulder length hair, I had shoulder width hair. Yeah. Total chick magnet, let me tell you. Seriously. Yeah. So anyway, the word affirmations, or affirmation, comes from the Latin word firmare, which means to make firm. Now, the word affirmations that I invented in the shower that morning, and by the way, it's perfectly legitimate to invent a new word when you have a new way of looking at the universe, right? Or a new technology. Isn't it true we need a new word, right? Like internet, software, you know, I mean, webinar. There's just, you know, dozens of new words. Selfie. Oh, that's a new word. You know. So it's a new technology. So what I'm teaching in this book and in Power Habits, I talk about a new technology of the mind. See? So affirmations comes from the Latin word formare, which means to form or give shape to. So the question that I often ask people at our workshops is, what if you're making something firm, but it's in the wrong form? That's called forming a life you didn't want. Why am I so broke? Why am I so fat? Why can't I lose weight? Right? You're not doing this on purpose, right? But that doesn't matter because of the law of sowing and reaping. Does this make sense? You guys with me? Awesome. Love you guys. All right. Fantastic. All right. So basically, there are 4 steps to affirmations, which of course we cover in the book. And I will be doing a book signing, by the way, after the program right out here. Is that correct? In that area? You'll find me. I'm the guy in the suit. Anyway, so we talk about 4 steps, all right, to affirmation. So the first step is to ask yourself what you want. You got to be very clear about what you want. The universe, and you all know this already. That part you're already with me, and I know a lot of you have been writing goals and doing all that stuff, and that's awesome. So you're probably already there with that first step. A lot of people aren't, though. A lot of people still, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, and that's fine. I mean, they're in their 50s and 60s. I get that a lot. So nothing wrong with that, but you do need to get clear, step 1. Step 2 is to form empowering questions based on what you want. Right? So, example would be, you know, I want to be prosperous. I want to be, you know, financially free, whatever it might be. Or I want to be healthy. I want to lose weight. Well, it doesn't matter. Wherever you point it, it works. We've seen this. We have thousands of success stories. It's so exciting, every one of them. So you form an empowering question. The third step of affirmations is you accept the truth of your statement. What we call is we give yourself to the question. Right? So it's not like you say, well, why am I so rich? And then, you know, $1 million shows up in your bank account. Doesn't work that way. You know, we have to be on planet Earth, right? Gosh darn it. You know, and so you have to change your brain. You literally have to change your brain. So we've got lots of technologies to help you do that. For example, we've got books, we've got audios that you can listen to, we've got software that you can literally program your own affirmations and listen to them throughout the day. People love those. So we've got lots of ways to help you do that. So, but you give yourself to the question. You just write, journal, pray, meditate, all of those things. All the things you're already doing, see? You're already doing this. And then the 4th step, and this is the most important, is take action. Right? Like I said, we live on planet Earth. It would be nice to say, well, let's just think about it and then it happens. But it doesn't work that way. We all know that, right? And so we have to take that action. That's what I was talking about a moment ago. That courage is action in the face of fear. Action even in when you may not even believe that you can do it. Right? So taking that action, that is the thing that will separate the people who just want the thing and are really thinking about it from those who get it, from those who manifest it. And you all are master manifestors. Now we're just going to tweak it just a little bit. That's the coolest thing about affirmations, just tweaking what you're already doing. And you don't even have to give anything up. You're just adding one more tool to your toolbox, and it's so fun and exciting. And we've got so many success stories. You know, we'll be talking about that in the workshop today. You know, people who've lost weight, found love of their lives, saved their marriages, made more money, started their own business, had their books published, and on and on and on. It's just so, so exciting. So the point that I want to conclude with is something that might be a little surprising to some of you. But guess what? You're already using affirmations. Every one of you here is actually already doing this. The problem is that for most people, because they're not aware of it, they just maybe never heard of this before, they're not aware of this new technology, the new technology of the mind, is that they're using it against themselves. So most people are unknowingly, unwittingly, unconsciously asking disempowering questions, right? How come I can't do that? You know, why is that so hard for me? And so now we want to just change that. Why is it so easy? Why did everything work out better than I thought it would? Right? And you just change that, make that little tweak. So what I would just invite you to do is to learn how your brain works and just rewire it. Just add this to your toolbox. Affirmations can be an exciting new tool for all of you to use, and it's so fun and easy. So now I just want to invite all of you to come to our workshop today, because it really is going to be fun. If you can't tell, we have fun, right? So we're going to be looking at power habits. So it's kind of like a house, and affirmations is like the foundation, because we have to get our inner game right. There's only two things that create your life, and that is, the first thing is your communication with the world inside of you. The second thing is your communication with the world outside of you. And that's what I call your inner game and your outer game. And when you have those two things working together, your inner game and your outer game, that's when you have the thing called success, health, relationships, finances, prosperity, whatever it is to you, wherever you point it, it works. So we're going to be looking at your inner game. I'm going to be giving you specific action steps to just take home, and it's going to be fun. So just mastering your inner game. So if you want to master your inner game and your outer game, if maybe you're feeling like you have too much to do in too little time, anybody ever say that to themselves? Right? We're going to help you get out of that. And we're going to get you out of overwhelm. And we're going to get you unstuck. All right? So that's going to be starting at 1 o'clock in the fellowship hall. We'd love to see you there. It's going to be so much fun. Ooh, and I've got a special surprise gift I just have right here, which is my top 10 affirmations for prosperity and achievement. Now, we only have 55 of these sheets, and there's a lot more than 55 of you. So the first 55 who come will get this. And you can literally, I have this right by my desk, and I'm just looking at it all the time. Why am I so rich? Why am I so prosperous? Why do I easily attract wealth? And so on. So you will get this beautiful, handsome, lovely piece of paper. But that can change your life and change your brain. So it's just going to be so much fun. It's such an honor to be here. I love teaching this. I love seeing people get excited and seeing them change their lives. And I know many of you have already been studying affirmations, studying the book. And so please come and just share your success story with me if you've seen. I know we've already had several of you come up and share that. So I'm just thrilled to be here. It's such a privilege and an honor to do this work, and especially to do it with all of you. So I look forward to talking with you in the table, seeing you in the workshop, and thank you again for your time and attention. Thank you very much.